I believe in America. America has made my fortune. And I raised my daughter in the American fashion.
I don't know what it is about this opening monologue, but there sure is something that the very first time I saw this movie, I had it stuck in my head for like weeks. As I was saying the line, I believe in America. America has made my fortune. And further Don Vito Corleone's line in his accent on repeat all day. And after the very good response of 52 views on the last video of the masterpiece I couldn't understand, I was planning on making another part of it, so I listed some movies I thought I could cover under this series, the masterpiece I couldn't understand. So I sat down to write script for those movies, and while writing them, I found myself at a point I felt as if I was acting very pretentious in appreciating the movie, as I was analyzing the movie as if I know everything about cinema, which I don't. So instead, there was this topic which I wanted to talk about, but I was scared because it would have been blasphemy, as talking about it would have stripped me of all my honors. Because the topic is that I didn't really enjoy The Godfather as much as people claimed I would. Instead, I found it to be a kind of mediocre movie. I know, after making this statement, I have no right to talk about the movie Godfather. But then there was this clip from the Family Guy, which, when I saw, gave me this courage to make this video. And the clip goes like,
I did not care for The Godfather.
What?
Did not care for The Godfather.
How can you even say that, Dad?
Didn't like it.
Peter, it's so good. It's like the perfect movie.
This is what everyone always says. Whenever they say, "Oh, my
Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I mean, you
listen-
never see Robert Duvall.
no, fine actor. Did not like the movie.
Why not?
Couldn't get into it.
Explain yourself. What didn't you like about
It
it?
insists upon itself, Lois.
What?
It insists upon itself.
What does that even mean?
Because it has a valid point to make. It's insistent.
It takes forever getting in. You spend like 6.5 hours, and then I can't even get through. I can't even finish a movie. I've never even seen it.
and the reason I was afraid to talk about this was because, for example, even if you are Bong Joon-ho himself and you have won the Academy Awards for the best movie and the best director, but then you say that you didn't really like or find the movie The Godfather to be really that impressive, then the people would deem you as if you had zero knowledge about cinema, regardless of your accomplishments. But thanks to the courage from Peter, I am finally confident enough to be making this video on the masterpiece I still can't understand, The Godfather. And before presenting my point, let me take a little back in time from where it all began. During my cinephile days, as I've also mentioned in my previous videos, that during those days, I had joined many groups and stuff where cinephiles used to discuss movies and series and used to try to rank them. At that time, in almost all of group, the movie The Godfather was something almost everyone respected and had hailed as the best movie ever made or the greatest movie of all time. And seeing all those people claim it as the best thing to ever exist and respect it as if it's the second coming of Jesus, subconsciously, after a certain period of time, also made me believe it's the best thing to ever exist without me ever watching it. Because whenever the topic of the movie The Godfather used to come, people in the community used to get really ostentatious about it, regardless they understood or liked the movie or not. Also, you see, during the time I was in those groups, there was this unspoken, unwritten rule that you must have watched top 100 highest IMDb rated movies or at least top 50 before you give your opinion on anything about cinema. That was like the criteria one must fulfill before he calls oneself a cinephile. And as the past me seeked validation from others and wanted to be called a cinephile for to feel a sense of belongingness, so I went in to watch top movies according to IMDb. Started with the top 1 highest rated movie in the world, The Shawshank Redemption, and it was just perfect. However, I skipped The Godfather at that time because the app I used to use to download the movies didn't have The Godfather in it. So I moved forward with the list and watched films such as 12 Angry Men, which was such a class in itself. Then I watched The Dark Knight, which was both amazing and brilliant. Then Forrest Gump, which was so heartwarming. Then The Green Mile, which was so emotional that my heart still aches every time I watch that final scene. Then I watched Inception, which was so complex for my tiny brain yet still so captivating. Then The Matrix, which literally made me question my reality. Then Fight Club, which completely changed me as a person and started my literally me phase. With every movie, I was more and more in love with cinema. I couldn't wait to see The Godfather, thinking if these movies are so good, just how good the best movie ever made would be like. So I searched hard on the internet and finally downloaded The Godfather. My hype was at the peak. My expectations were higher than the Everest. And I went in to watch the film thinking I am about to experience something that will completely change me as a person. Because duh, it's the best movie ever made. But when I completed the movie, it felt okayish. Yeah, it was alright type, as it didn't live up to my expectations, instead felt a little bland. And I'm not saying that because I hate gangster movies, because trust me, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. Well, jokes aside, but the point is that the movie Goodfellas is one of the movies I enjoyed the most while watching, which was something I was expecting from The Godfather too. So to find what is it that I missed, I tried watching some video essays on why The Godfather is the greatest movie of all time, but you see, in those video essays, the YouTuber just tries way too hard making commentary on even those redundant scenes, which literally mean nothing, but they try to force deep meaning into it to make it look artistic, just like our English teacher whenever he's teaching us any Shakespeare's work. The video essayer just forces so much to make the normal scene of the movie look like a piece of art, to the point that they make the statement about this movie true, that the movie Godfather insists upon itself. Also, one really weird, well not weird, but my over expectation I guess, but you see, seeing people respect the character Don Vito Corleone and using his quotes in various moments as the peak of badassness had made me wonder that the character of Don Vito Corleone would say this line in very dramatic tone, meaning he would have voice like of a lion's roar, like really deep voice resembling such as voice of Kratos or Madara.
Wake up to reality.
But when I watched the movie, he instead sounds like a very constipated man, as English isn't my native language, so I couldn't understand anything because everything he was saying sounded like a gibberish to me. So I had to stop the movie and download the subtitles just to understand what he is saying. But then, as the movie went on, that voice of Vito Corleone grew on me, and I like and find that voice cool now, as I find myself once in a while doing Godfather's impression. That I cannot do. You're always afraid to be in my debt. You don't even think of me to call the Godfather. A man who never spent time with the family can never be a man. So they massacred my boy. I'll make him an offer he can't refuse. Also, another thing, but I don't know if it's due to me being an anime fan, especially shonen fan, that my brain has been set to that if a character is really cool or badass, then she must do everything over the top and larger than life. Due to what? Even in other medium of art forms, if a cool badass character doesn't do stuff in over the top or larger than life style, then it feels like a wasted opportunity. And maybe because of that, in that scene where those two guys had come to assassinate Vito Corleone, the way he ran from them felt really out of character, as if he was some scary cat. Well, what he should have done was pull out his gun and shot those two guys right then and there who had come to assassinate him, showing them who is the real boss, instead of running away from them like a scaredy cat. And same goes for his death. Due to my shonen mindset, I felt like the death Don Vito Corleone got was not the death he deserved, because for such a badass character like Don Vito Corleone, he deserved a heroic death. But again, I shouldn't expect two completely different type of art form to take the same approach of filmmaking, as not everything has to be over the top or larger than life, because this movie itself has taken very grounded approach towards mafia and the underworld. Yet still, even after I disregard that shonen mindset of mine, I still find it unsettling on how easily those two Mr. Nobodies did the assassination task on someone like Don Vito Corleone. Like, is it that easy to stalk, trace and track Don's whereabouts? He is literally a mafia boss. Stuff like enemies and people trying to assassinate him should not be a new thing for him. So he should have been able to show them who is the boss instead of running away from them like a scaredy cat. But again, who am I to teach filmmaking to Francis Ford Coppola? I just find it weird how someone who always educates others on how a man can never afford to be careless would be the one being so careless by not carrying a gun with him for self-defense or emergency purpose while being out in public where he knows there are people out there who want him dead. But again, it's just a tiny aspect of the movie and I shouldn't be making this big of a mountain out of it because I don't want to throw shade at this movie. Just because I couldn't understand it doesn't mean nobody else does. Even though the movie didn't impress me, but every other aspect of the movie did. Like, the movie has one of the finest acting in cinema history. The background score and the cinematography of this movie is a class in itself. And the way this movie establishes power, as in how powerful the character of Don Vito Corleone is, that too within the very opening scene of the movie, solely through dialogues, without needing any violence, shows the brilliant writing of this movie. Also the fact that Marlon Brando didn't even read his lines before or prepared for this role. Instead, he read and performed his lines through the help of cue cards on the spot at the same time when his scenes were being filmed, with various incidents of him improvising scenes such as the opening monologue with the cat, that slap, this scene, and various other scenes. And he went on to win the Academy Award for the Best Actor for this role,
Marlon Brando in The Godfather,
which he ultimately rejected, which is so badass that it's literally something Don Vito Corleone would do in real. Also, it said that there were real mafias on movie sets and stuff to monitor how they would portray the mafia in their movie. But the most impressive and badass thing out of all regarding this movie is the Mario Puzo incident, which is that after winning 2 Oscars for the best screenplay, he still felt that he isn't really that good at writing screenplays because he had never written one before. So he bought a book to learn how to write screenplay, and in the very first chapter of the book, it was written that if you want to learn how to write good screenplay, study The Godfather 1. That's like the God playing a prank on you to tell you you are the best. Yet still, even after all these impressive things about this movie, nowadays on the internet, when discussion on the topic like that one movie everyone loves but you don't, or that one movie most people love but you think is overrated, in such discussion, people often mention the movie Godfather. And the reason for that they mention is mediocre story, slow pacing, or like too long and stuff. I mean, of course you can critique those people by saying you young people can't appreciate a masterpiece like The Godfather and you find it slow and long because your attention span is all destroyed due to this TikTok and short form content. And speaking from a personal experience, even though I've tried my best to keep myself away from the short form type of content, but due to the constant rapid change in internet's algorithm, there is no escape from them. And because of it, I can't deny that my attention span sure has declined over the years. And that could be the main reason behind why new people like us aren't able to appreciate this movie, The Godfather, as much as the people from the 80s and the 90s did. But we also need to consider that the change is the law of the nature. The Godfather may have been a groundbreaking movie at the time of its release, but in the current age of cinema, where there is abundance of content that are so out of the box and are so peak and perfect that it literally feels like they are written and made by the God himself. So in between the presence of all such content, the movie The Godfather may not be the perfect candidate for the title of the best movie ever made or the greatest movie of all time. However, that does not mean that The Godfather doesn't deserve every bit of other appreciation that it gets, because there is no denying that the movie Godfather has stood the test of time, as it still, even after 50 years, is regarded as the best movie ever made, which has inspired filmmakers, writers, and actors across the world. And if there is something that has brought the humanity to almost perfect peace in such subjective matter like the best movie ever made, then it's The Godfather. And being able to achieve such status is not a joke or an easy task. So you gotta give respect where the respect is due. But again, the fact that this movie has inspired all these personalities that I think of as my idol when it comes to filmmaking and them making their creation which is inspired from The Godfather, and that creation of theirs inspiring me, but the very original movie, The Godfather, not affecting me the same way it did to my idols, and me not being able to appreciate this movie like my idols really makes me wonder, is it something that I lack in me, that I'm unable to appreciate this masterpiece that almost all the filmmaking professionals think is the greatest gift to them? Because I don't want to be a contrarian. I want to see as well what they see in this movie that I'm unable to see. So I watched more and more video essays on why The Godfather is the greatest, but it's the same thing over and over again. They just try way too hard to make even the redundant scene artistic. Nonetheless, I've been told that The Godfather is a type of movie that you should watch twice in your life. Once when you are 15 and the other time when you are 30, to journal and examine the changes in your life and perspective regarding art, cinema and filmmaking. So I guess I'll be back in the future with the video titled The Masterpiece I Finally Understood, because The Godfather has made me an offer I can't refuse.